The First Constellations. Long ago, before the first cities, when tribes of people roamed the lands, there was a man named Kalen. All his life, Kalen tried to find his place in his tribe, but he had no skill in hunting or fishing, and no talent for stitching furs or weaving baskets. When he tried to sharpen stones, they always cracked and splintered. When he tried to forage, he returned with less than half of any other forager. One day, he overheard the others in his tribe laughing about the man who cannot do anything right. Kalen could not sleep that night, and he wandered from the camp to a nearby hilltop. He could not stop hearing the voices of his tribe in his head, and he looked around for something else to distract him. He stared up at the stars and tried to think about something else. He focused on one particularly bright point of light, and then he noticed another a few degrees away from it. He noticed a third point above the first two, and then another point above that. They seemed brighter to Kalen, like they wanted him to notice them. Then Kalen understood, through his imagination, a line connecting those brighter points of light. And in one sudden moment, the sky he had slept under for his entire life became something altogether new to him. He came back to the hilltop the next night to find more connections and patterns, and he began to find familiar shapes in the night sky, plants, animals, even tools. He began to imagine the stories of how these creatures and things came to be in the stars. A year later, a young boy named Damaris came of age in the tribe. He showed no aptitude for hunting or fishing, and did not seem to have any talent for stitching furs or weaving baskets. Kalen saw the boy sit alone during meals, and saw him sit alone by the fire when others were playing. Kalen saw the familiar look of shame on the boy's face at the end of another day of failures. In the deepest darkness of night, Kalen woke Damaris and silently motioned for him to follow him to the hilltop. "Look up, Damaris. What do you see?" Kalen asked the boy. "Stars," Damaris replied glumly, staring at the ground. "No," Kalen said gently, tilting the boy's face toward the heavens. "Take a long look until you see something you haven't seen before. Keep looking until you see the connections between the stars." Damaris looked up, trying to understand what Kalen meant. He squinted in confusion at the dots of light and cocked his head to one side and then to the other. Then he gasped. "I see a big lion!" exclaimed Damaris, tracing the outline with his finger. "Exactly," Kalen smiled. "The stars hold stories, Damaris. The lion you see is a brave guardian of the night. This lion was not always big and brave, and now he watches over those who are small, who will one day grow to be big and brave. And because you have seen him, he will watch over you." The two began to go to the hilltop each night and found new connections and new stories. One day Damaris was especially late to rise, and the tribe chided him. "I was learning the stories of the stars from Kalen," he explained. When the chieftain confronted Kalen, he tried to explain the patterns and connections he had found, but the chieftain was not moved. "Our tribe has much to do, and these stories are a waste of time. We have animals to hunt, fruit to gather, furs to stitch. We face danger and suffering each day. You know that we lost a child to wild beasts not 10 days ago. The mother, Zosha, still mourns. This is our life, danger and suffering. It demands too much of us for us to waste time on hilltops and staring at stars. It is bad enough that you cannot contribute, but we cannot tolerate that you should take away. I forbid you to go to the hilltop again." Kalen was distracted as he went about his chores that day. He thought about the time spent with Damaris and watched him now. He was laughing with the other boys in the tribe as they scraped furs and stretched them. Kalen wondered what else could be changed by the stories of the stars. That night, he woke Zosha and silently motioned for her to follow him to the hilltop. "Look up, Zosha. What do you see?" Kalen asked. "Clouds," Zosha replied softly, her wet eyes reflecting the starlight. "Look beyond the clouds, Zosha," Kalen pressed gently. "Look until you see connections between the stars. What do you see?" Long moments passed as Zosha studied the points of light high above her. Then she whispered in awe, "A flower, blooming in the darkness." "And so can you," Kalen said softly. "The stars remind us that there is always beauty and hope above this world." They stood silently on the hilltop and stared at the sky for many hours, sometimes pointing out the patterns they saw and sharing the stories the stars told. When Kalen and Zosha returned to the camp, the chieftain was sitting by the fire. "Kalen, I commanded you to stop this wasteful distraction. You will be judged at dawn." When the sun rose, the tribe gathered at the fire. The chieftain spoke first. "The stars are only points of light above us. There is no story, no pattern, only lies. These connections are not real, they are not true, they are not useful, they cannot help us." The chieftain sat and looked to young Damaris. "What will you say of these lies of stars?" Damaris stood and spoke. "The stories might not be real, but they are true enough for me. The stories are the strength to continue trying, every day, even when I feel I might never find something I'm good at." Damaris sat, and a soft murmur of whispers went through the crowd. The chieftain looked toward Zosha. "And what have you learned of the patterns Kalen sees? Are these connections real or false?" Zosha hesitated and looked around the tribe, anxiously squeezing one hand with the other. Finally, she stood and spoke. "It might not be real or true," she admitted, "but it helps me. The stories are medicine for my pain, which no tea or poultice can cure." Zosha sat, and the murmur of whispers was louder. All eyes now turned to Kalen. Kalen stood and spoke to the tribe he had failed and disappointed for his entire life. "The truth is that we cannot know the truth of the stars, but we don't know that these patterns are not real. If we are better people for believing in these stories, that might be all the truth really is, or really can be, or needs to be. Just finding the pattern and telling the story that helps us make sense of ourselves and the world. We just have to find a good pattern and tell a good story. Everywhere else in this world, when we find patterns, we prosper and thrive. When we know the patterns of the herds, the hunter brings home meat. When we learn the patterns of the trees, the forager brings home fruit. If patterns help us in this world, why shouldn't we find patterns beyond this world, even in the heavens above?" As Kalen sat, the murmurs around him were a soft roar of prehistoric philosophy. The whispers lasted a long time before the tribe quieted and looked up towards their chieftain, awaiting his judgment. The chieftain sat in silent thought for a very long time, looking carefully at the faces of his tribe. Then he spoke. "Kalen, you may continue to share these stories of the stars, but you must have my permission before waking anyone during the night. Perhaps you have found a new medicine, but I will ensure that this medicine does not bring our tribe to ruin." As the seasons changed, Kalen's stories of the constellations spread, weaving a new fabric of connection within the tribe. The stars became more than just points of light. They were now symbols of unity, stories shared between young and old, a comfort in the darkness of life. Members of the tribe each found their own constellations, majestic eagles and cunning wolves, great mountain peaks and strong trees. From Kalen's hilltop, everyone looked to the sky and found personal consolation from personal constellations. One by one, as he took members of his tribe from their struggles and grief to the hilltop, his tribe came to love and respect Kalen. His gift of the constellations taught them to find wonder in the world above, and to see beyond the moments of danger and seasons of suffering. No one ever again talked about the man who could not do anything right. Generations later, when the tribe started to build the first cities, they kept the traditions of the stories of the stars. And in the center of their city, they built a hilltop of stones, so the people would always be able to go there and find the stories they needed.